Hello, Philippines, and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DZRJ and RJ TV. My name is Lecain, and we are bringing you the most interesting stories from around the world. Now, we have yet again this week, Melissa Racilla.
Melissa Racella. Okay.
Racella.
Afternoon.
Isn't that what I said? Melissa.
So good morning to other parts of the world. Good evening to the Philippines.
Yes, I am doing a lot of checking here when we're doing things, and we are very happy to have you again to talk about. It's interesting to discuss the interesting things that are around the world and me just sitting here by myself. Now, you, just so people get to know you, you are a businesswoman here in Manila, and also you are a triathlete, which I keep pushing because you may be, in fact, you're gonna, you told me once before that you may be doing an Ironman.
Yes, in Davao on March.
Yeah, an Ironman. You may be the only DZRJ guest host to ever do an Ironman.
Oh, really?
I'm just guessing.
Cool.
I can't imagine any of us old out of shape radio people here have ever done anything like this. But anyway.
Maybe it can be a good influence for RJ staff.
Yes, to get us to quit sitting in our chairs all day and writing and gaining weight. Yeah, so yeah, that would be great. So in any case, Melissa, let's get to the news because there is just a plethora of news this week going on around the world. The first story I wanted to get to is something that I have already talked about last week, but it is just so juicy, I have to bring it up again. And this has to do with that fella, George Santos, who's now known around the world as the lying congressman.
The boy cried wolf.
You know, do you realize how much you would have to lie to be called a lying congressman?
So much.
Anyway.
Lied about everything.
It's just, I mean, because politicians, they lie. I mean, we know that they lie, but not like this guy. So anyway, last week we talked about the schools that he went to, which he didn't, and the companies that he worked for, but he didn't.
Family background.
Yes. There are new revelations this week, which are not so much lies as just startling stuff. He started a GoFundMe page for a dying service dog. This dog was a dog for a U.S. veteran, and the veteran was living there in a tent on the side of the road with his service dog, and the dog got sick, and the dog was dying, so the guy took it to the vet, and the vet said, you know what, there's this guy, George Santos, who claims to raise money for animals. He has a charity. Maybe he can help you raise the money in order to do the surgery to save your dog. So he got in touch with George Santos, and George Santos started a GoFundMe page for the guy, and they raised the $3,000 for the dog surgery.
Wow.
The problem
That's good,
was, yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, except for one thing, when they tried to get hold of George Santos after they had raised the money, they couldn't reach him anymore.
Holy cow.
And the doctor kept trying to reach him, and he just disappeared. Later, he said, when they finally found him, well, we decided to use the money for another dog, which, anyway, so the veteran's dog died. So this story has come out because of the George Santos charity called Friends of Pets United, which sounds great. However, the IRS has looked this up and found that there is no such charity as this.
Oh, crap.
So it just keeps getting better. Now, there was another story that came out about him again this week that he was also a drag queen in Brazil, which seems a bit far-fetched, and he denies it. However, of course, when you deny something like this, there are videos and pictures and friends all seeming to say that this is true. There's a great video of a guy in drag doing an interview who looks just like this guy, and his friends say it is this guy. So,
Okay. So apparently the bad things are true, but the good things are not.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a drag queen. I mean, I don't have any problem with being a drag queen, but when you're a Republican congressman, the Republicans who really hate the LGBT community, it's, a lot of Republicans are like, he's a what? So anyway.
So he's a hypocrite for being part of the Republicans and then being a drag queen.
It would just seem so. Anyway, this kind of leads to the story that we talked about last week about the mother, because he claimed that his mother was in the World Trade Center during 9/11 when the planes came in and destroyed the World Trade Center, and that she got out on time, but then she died because of the cancer that was caused by the whatever. Anyway, they looked all this up and they found out that his mother was not in the United States during the time of 9/11. She was actually in Brazil, where he is from, and she has been there for years before 9/11 ever happened. So anyway, not only was that a lie, but I mean, that's a lie. Like, come on, Why did he
Yeah.
But the one that I thought was the best one was, remember when he said he went to Baruch College, but the Baruch College has no record of him ever being there. Well, of course, now they are looking for every interview that this guy has ever done, and they found a great interview of him on a television talk show where he talks about himself being a volleyball star at Baruch College and playing on the team. And this is why he had 2 knee replacements from his volleyball career there at Baruch College.
Baruch is a college, is a university?
Yes, it's a college there in New York City, and I know it very well because they do have a great volleyball team there. And he claims to have played on the volleyball team. However, not only does nobody remember him ever playing volleyball, if there's ever any videos or anything of him ever being not only on the team but a star, but there is also no evidence that he ever even went to Baruch College.
How about the Horace school called Horace?
Oh yes, Horace Mann. He said he went to high school at Horace Mann, which is a very upscale preppy high school. He's never been there. He never went to that school. I mean, I know Horace Mann. He never went to that school. They looked for records and they couldn't find it. So
pathological liars, what do you call it?
This is why I wanted to talk about it again, because it's just so much. And this, of course, his grandparents were survivors of the Holocaust, but we now know for sure that his grandparents were in Brazil at the time of World War II. And we found out also this week that one of the reasons that he may have said that is because he told his friends that he's telling people that he's Jewish because Jewish voters will be more apt to give a fellow Jew money for his campaign. So that's why he actually, during that time, was saying that his last name was Zabronsky.
Okay.
So, which also leads to yet another story. His former roommate says that he claimed he had a home in Nantucket, but there's, of course, no record of him ever having a home in Nantucket. But that's not what's interesting. The interesting thing is that the roommate only knew him by the name Anthony DeVolder.
Okay, so what I want to know is what is being done about all his lies? Is he still in Congress? His credibility is down to zero. What's happening?
Isn't this interesting? You would think that now, if this was a Democrat, the Democrats would have said, okay, listen, you know what, you're going to need to resign. The Republicans would be salivating over this. Look at this guy. He's such a liar. But the Republicans right now, you know what they did to him once they found out that he was this liar? They put him on 2 committees in Congress, the Small Business Committee and the Science Committee, because I think it's very obvious that the Republicans have a very slim majority in Congress now, something they were not supposed to have. They were supposed to have a big majority. I think if they had a bigger majority, they would be more apt to get rid of this guy. But right now, if they get rid of him, there is a chance that they will lose the seat in Congress. And, you know, I understand why they're doing, because they're Republicans. It's kind of the way they think. It's more about the party and about having the power rather than helping the people. Anyway, that's just an opinion there.
Cover up.
You know, it's no longer a cover up because it's out there. I mean,
exposed. Yeah,
it's so exposed. But here's, you know, here's what I think, and you can let me know if you agree with this. You know, he may be a liar, but he's kind of a smart liar. I mean, okay, that's not really true. He's not really smart. If you're a smart liar, you never get caught. But the things that he lied about, you would think, why? Why would somebody lie about that? Why would you lie about being a volleyball player? I mean, what good is what good is a lie like that? But, you know, the thing is, the idea that he came out and spoke about the 2020 election just before, like on January 5th, just before the big insurrection on January 6th, saying that he supports Donald Trump 100% and that he worked in the financial world. Republicans love candidates that worked in the financial world. You know, he, you know, in saying that the election was stolen, that Joe Biden and the Democrats stole the election. He came out and said all the things that the Republicans love to hear. But also, he also claimed that he was Jewish, that he was gay, that his grandparents are Holocaust survivors, that his mother died in the World Trade Center from 9/11.
Friendly.
That his employees died in the Florida gay nightclub. Saving the veterans' dog, you know, stuff that Democrats love to hear. So he played both sides of the coin. He was able to, you know, lie to both sides. So the Democrats kind of liked him and the Republicans kind of liked him. And he was able to get himself elected in Long Island, New York, which generally goes Democrat. Because I think that he lied to both sides. So, I mean, I think that his, part of the reason why he was able to get elected is through great lies.
So it's actually very tragic how he's getting away with everything.
Yeah, I mean, when they asked the Republicans about it, this was their response. They said, "Well, he hasn't broken any laws." So he just lied. He just lied about everything. So. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just, that's why I think, I mean, you know, I think that he got elected. And I think if they kick him out, I think a Democrat would be elected in the special election. They have to have a special election to put in another person. And I think the Democrats would win. And then the Republicans would be down another guy and they would be closer. And, you know, they would lose a lot of power that they already don't have. So I think this is a big issue to keep this guy in Congress. But how is anybody ever going to take this guy seriously ever? And, you know, here's the other thing about this. And I mean, I know sometimes we talk about U.S. politics too much. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who we have talked about on the show a lot of times. She's the woman that says, you know, the Jewish people have satellites surrounding the earth that shoot lasers at people. I mean, she's just a nut. There's a couple of nuts in the Republican Party now, and they are putting them on big time committees because the Republicans now think. But the Democrats are loving this. Even though the Democrats are not in power, they're like, go ahead, put George Santos on a committee, put Marjorie Taylor Greene on a committee, put Matt Gaetz on a committee. You're just going to just look like fools if you do this. Yeah. So I think that's
like a circus.
It's like a circus. I mean, you know, right now, U.S. politics is like, I can't even believe what is happening right now. It's just incredible that the Republicans are like, you know, see, we're in power. And the Democrats are like, yeah, you're in power. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when you put these nut jobs on some of the top committees in Congress and see what happens. You can't control these people. And I'm sure this whole thing, they're going to go after the Speaker of the House. I just can see what's going to happen if the writing's on the wall. But anyway, enough.
Good luck.
Enough of U.S. politics, because we have to get to some other stuff, some very, very important news that's going on around the world, and that is chicken.
Okay.
Yes, chicken is a big problem. You remember when Jollibee had the chicken shortage back, I think it was
Yeah.
in July. It was in July, and that
Yeah.
supply chain issues with the chicken feed, because you do not want to get between a Filipino and their chicken joy. I know from experience that's a problem, but the Philippines, the Jollibee people there have worked out their chicken issues, but the South Africa, they had to kill or cull, they call it cull, 10 million chickens because of load shedding. Now, I didn't even know what load shedding was. I had to look it up. Load shedding is how they distribute the demand for electricity. And the problem is not in the number of chickens, it's in the processing of the slaughter of the chickens to get them to the grocery store and to the restaurants. If you have millions and millions of chickens, but you can't run the machines because of the load shedding, then you have too many chickens. Now you have new chickens coming in from the chicks, and where are they going to live? So then they just had to kill a bunch of chickens, and they couldn't slaughter them in the machines because, how would you kill millions of chickens by hand? The whole thing is just a mess, and they have fallen further and further behind in Africa. There's no way for them to catch up, and that means one thing: the price of chicken is going up in Africa because and they have generators there to run the machines. However, the diesel fuel to run the chicken machines is crazy expensive. So they haven't been able to run the thing. So there's, they're having problems with the chickens.
See, this is why we need renewable energy.
Yes, there we go. There's a smart answer, because right now this is leading, of course, is all leading up to one big story. Of course, it's in the U.S. In U.S., there's a problem right now, and it's not just the chickens. It's the eggs, because, you got the chicken before the egg. Wait a minute. Or the egg before the chicken. I can't remember how that goes. But anyway, they have a problem there with the chicken flu. And it sounds funny, but it's actually really serious. This year, 40 million egg-laying hens had to be culled because they had the avian influenza. And it's spreading across the United States, like the smell of my neighbor's chicken farm over there, which I can tell you by experience. It's spreading all over the United States right now.
That's so sad. It's like chickens having COVID.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they can't keep the chickens alive, and the problem is like with COVID, we put people in the hospital and we put them on ventilators. We can't do that with chickens. You can't put a chicken on a ventilator. So we have to kill the chickens. So we have a lot of murdered chickens. I mean, chickens are the most murdered species probably in history. But, at least they had a job. They could lay eggs. And now in the United States, there is a huge shortage of eggs. Since last year, they had to kill 58 million birds. And now eggs are skyrocketing in the U.S. right now.
Sure.
The poultry people have explained that they have to kill the sick birds, and then they have to disinfect the facility, and then they have to bring in the new birds to try and lay new eggs. And this takes sometimes months to do. So, of course, egg production is at a standstill in the United States. Currently, they are selling eggs at $7.50 to $8 per dozen, which is around 440 pesos, I think, per a dozen eggs.
Mm-hmm. So is this just is this the entire United States, or there's like a particular region where the influenza is concentrated?
Everywhere in the United States right now, egg prices are through the roof. I mean, eggs are like gold. I mean, it's like eating. The egg is more expensive than the meat. So anyway, this is a problem. Now, they're trying to work on how to stop chickens from getting the disease. And the problem that they're having in the United States is the flu is carried by wild birds, and the wild birds can fly from one country to the other. So, as currently as they can see right now, this flu has saturated the wild bird population there in the United States, which spreads it from farm to farm to farm in the United States. And the problem is, it's coming, they believe, of course, it's coming from Asia, and the birds are flying to Europe, and then from Europe, they're migrating to the United States. And it's going around the world via birds. And the biggest problem that they're having is you can't tell when a chicken is sick until it falls over dead. So, it's really tricky. You get a couple of birds and they have to test them, and they're like, okay, these birds have it, so probably every bird has it. So they have to kill the whole lot of birds. They have to disinfect the whole place, and then they have to try and bring in new birds, and they hope that one of them doesn't have it, because it's extremely, that birds can seem to spread it like it's nothing. If one bird has it, they all have it. So the U.S. government has come up with a program called Defend the Flock, trying to weed out sick birds in the country and trying to get just uninfected birds together. And it's turned out to be a problem, because experts have said this is like something they have never seen before. And they've had avian flu in the United States before. They've had birds get sick, a bird flu, whatever, but not so much that it makes something like this happen, where they have to kill 58 million chickens.
Is this like, do they infect the free-range chicken, or even the ones that are contained?
As far as I can tell, this is affecting every single farm across the United States. I did quite a bit of research on this, because I knew we were going to be talking about it. And then the weather is a problem, because according to scientists, avian flu can be killed by the sun. However, the United States currently is going through this doom and gloom weather patterns right now everywhere, and that sometimes enhances the flu being spread. Like when it rains, chickens are dumb. Just run out of drink whatever. So they seem to be spreading it a lot because of the rain. So many problems with the rain, and now they're trying. They're worried, not super worried, but a little worried about this becoming some kind of flu that humans will get.
Well, that's going to be crazy.
Just to keep going with the theme of chickens right now, Egypt right now is having a huge problem with chickens. They're having, they've got problems there with their economy and inflation and so forth. And, the big issue in Egypt is chicken is the number one food in Egypt. It is the biggest food. And prices of chickens are skyrocketing. So the government there, they don't know what to do. So they came up with this thing that they came out with last week. And they made an announcement that they asked for people to start eating chicken feet. They're saying that the chicken feet is as good as the rest of the chicken, and it has just as much protein. And would you please, as a population, start eating chicken feet, because we have a lot. Now,
when they slaughter the chicken, they save the feet. Is that right?
Well, what they usually do is they throw the feet away. Now, I know in the Philippines, you like chicken feet, right?
Yeah, we call it Adidas.
Yes. So anyway, but in Egypt, they look at it as garbage, which is why the public kind of did not take too well to them saying, hey, you know what, you need to eat the chicken feet, because they throw it away. So that is a problem right now there in Egypt, that they just don't have, people cannot buy chicken because it's just, too expensive. And Egypt right now, we've talked about this on the show, they are having a really bad time, a very bad financial state there. They have borrowed money to the point where they need to borrow money to pay back the money that they've borrowed. And their currency has dropped through the bottom. So right now in Egypt, if you're an Egyptian and you're listening to this show, we really need you to eat chicken feet.
Oh my God.
Like in the Philippines, where they really like chicken feet. I can buy chicken feet at the local street food vendor. I have not eaten a lot of chicken feet in my life, so I don't know. But anyway.
or start changing your diet to plant-based.
Yes. Okay. By the way, that's coming up. That's coming up. But first, before we get to past chickens and talking about plant-based food, we need to talk about Donald Trump, which I don't know how I related that to Donald Trump, but he's currently being sued by a woman that claims that he raped her in a changing room in a high fashion store there in New York. Now, it's not about the rape. It's about what he said about her being raped by him, because what she's saying is that he is lying, and she is suing him for a ridiculous amount of money for defamation, because the president is saying, I would never have sex with this woman. She's not my type. And then he went on to say that she's kind of ugly, and he would never, have sex with a woman that's this ugly. And so you can believe that he's lying or not. However, he has multiple rape cases against him. This is just the one. But the thing that you have to think is, he's talking about how ugly she is. But if you look at a picture of her when this happened, which is a long time ago, she was a very respected columnist, and she was very good looking. And what happened this week, I just have to say, it's not about the case. It's about what he said. They had him on the stand this week in the trial. And in the trial, they handed him a picture, and they said, who is in that picture? And he says, oh, that's my ex-wife, because it was a picture of a beautiful woman. And he claims that all his ex-wives are beautiful, and they've never had any surgery because he only picks the most beautiful women. Well, the woman in the picture was the woman that claims that he raped her, and he mistook her for one of his wives. So immediately his lawyer jumped up and goes, oh, no, that would be the woman that's, he just made a mistake. And then Trump took another look at it and goes, okay, yes, whatever. But so now this is taking a big turn because he has mistook the woman for one of his ex-wives, which he says is beautiful. However, he said that she was not beautiful, but now there you go.
Yeah. Lies eventually will reveal itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of losing or having to pay a lot of money, just Trump he made a case against Hillary Clinton for rigging the 2016 election by saying that he had cavorted with the Russians. So somehow that, rigged the election because she won so much of the popular vote. So anyway, he sued her, which was the stupidest lawsuit. Anyways, it was completely thrown out. But it didn't end there. We thought, he sues people all the time for the stupidest things, and they get thrown out. But this judge that was presiding in that case said, okay, all right, so you made this stupid, ridiculous thing. We already know, the Mueller report came out, and it proved that he was in league with the Russians during the campaign. But anyway, he won the election, not because of the popular vote, because of the Electoral College. But the judge said, okay, listen, if you're going to bring these ridiculous, stupid lawsuits to my courtroom, I am going to sanction your lawyers. So he sanctioned his lawyers for, get this, $1 million.
Wow.
So,
and then what happened?
So the lawyers now have to pay $1 million for making this ridiculously stupid case where they tried to sue Hillary Clinton. So, anyway, I just think it's an interesting news piece that, okay, Trump sues people all the time, just for the most ridiculous. In all the lawsuits that he had in the last election, he lost every single suit. I think he lost 60-some lawsuits. So now finally a judge is saying, okay, enough. If you're going to sue and it's going to be ridiculous, I'm going to sanction you for $1 million.
My God.
So anyway, Trump is having a really bad week, but you know who else is having a really bad week is Alec Baldwin.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so is he gonna go to prison, or is he being tried?
Alec Baldwin is in some serious trouble now. If you remember, and I guess you do, as just to remind everybody out there, he is the actor, very famous actor, who was in shooting a movie called Russ. And while in the movie Rust, he picked up a gun in one of they were rehearsing, and he shot and killed his camera woman with the gun. So, why in the movie Rust were they practicing a scene with a real gun with real bullets in it?
Yeah.
This is a question. Now, Alex, he's doing his action scene. He pulled out the gun, and he claimed when he pulled out the gun, it accidentally went off. He didn't pull the trigger. He said he didn't know that the gun was loaded with real bullets, and it was just a bad accident, which I believe him. I believe that he didn't he didn't take a loaded gun and shoot his cameraman on purpose. But the district attorney is like, well, okay, yes, but it may have been an accident, but he still killed her with a loaded gun. So,
But who was responsible for loading the gun?
yes, this is an issue. Why were bullets, real bullets, mixed in with fake bullets? And who on the set was supposed to be checking the gun before they handed it to Alec Baldwin?
The props man.
Don't they have a procedure for handing an actor a gun?
Exactly like the son of Bruce Lee in The Crow.
Yes, exactly the same. Except the person that shot Bruce Lee's son was not as famous as Alec Baldwin, which makes a big difference. But I mean, if you're, drunk and you're home and you pick up an old timey gun that's like on the wall or something, and you start pretending to shoot it, and then you accidentally shoot it and it goes off and you kill your wife or your girlfriend, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You didn't, maybe you didn't know it was loaded, whatever, but it's still an accident, but you're still in trouble. It's called involuntary manslaughter, where you killed somebody that you didn't mean to kill, but you killed them because you were being an idiot. You were waving a gun around and you accidentally went off and you shot somebody. So is this the same thing? I mean, so anyway, the defense attorney, they think that, first of all, the safety guys should have been more careful with live guns and who, those live guns were in the hand of. And also Alec Baldwin, actors have to follow certain procedures when checking a gun. He's the producer. He's the executive producer on the show. And should he have checked the gun before he pointed it at his camera, the camera that he was looking at, and shot it? So is this a criminal act? I don't know. What do you think? Should they go after him on criminal charges for involuntary manslaughter?
For me, I don't think so. I think he's innocent on this. Because it's the scene that requires him to shoot, to act like he's shooting, and he did, and he didn't know it was loaded.
But the question is, he didn't know it was loaded, but is it negligence? Should Alec Baldwin he have followed the procedure? Now, they're going to have to check the procedures. When they handed him the gun, should he have checked the gun first before he pointed it at somebody and shot it? Now, Alec Baldwin says that the gun accidentally went off, that he never pulled the trigger. He didn't mean to. However, the problem with that is the FBI investigated this whole thing, and the FBI, they have really good labs and everything, and they said there's no way that this gun went off without the trigger being pulled.
I guess it was recorded. Wasn't it recorded?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when you look at him rehearsing, he says he did not pull the trigger, but he has to pull out the gun really fast. So, I mean, I guess something could have happened when he pulled the gun out. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, somebody's responsible for this. Somebody should, is going to have to take the blame for this because somebody died.
I guess this just about time to really study about stuff about gun safety in the set at home, in school, all of those things.
Well, yes. I mean, there's a good reason for this. I mean, there are people that have already come out and said there is no reason anymore with the technology that we have now for anybody to ever need a live round of ammunition on a movie set.
Correct.
That there is no reason to ever have one on a movie set, and why they had a live round on that set and how it got into a real gun and how it got pointed at somebody's chest and shot. Somebody's going to have to explain that in court. So anyway, that court case is going to trial.
Okay. So once we hear more news about it, maybe we can talk about that again.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I'm sure this story is definitely not over.
Developing story.
It's a developing story. Now, one thing that is over, and we're going to have to talk about something that is very sad, because, most of the time, Melissa, we seem to elect the worst possible leaders for our countries. Mm-hmm. This is just, my opinion. But sometimes when you look at the population of a country, we seem to pick the worst people to run our countries. Not always, but a lot of the time, except in the case of, in my opinion, New Zealand. Now,
okay. Yes. They did good there.
Yeah, Jacinda Ardern, she did a very good job of being the Prime Minister of New Zealand. She started in the Labour Party in New Zealand at just the age of 17. She became the youngest Prime Minister at 37 years old. And
she also made the first female?
Huh?
The first female Prime Minister?
She was, I believe she was the second female, but she was the first female to ever have a child. I think she's the second Prime Minister ever in the history of the world to have a child in office. We've talked about her a lot on the Jam because she is the leader that a lot of us all wish that we had in our own countries.
Very smart, very hands-on.
Very, unfortunately, as you probably have now guessed by the way that my face looks, she is resigning as leader of New Zealand.
She did a good job also with COVID. She handled it really well.
I mean, that's part of the reason why we talked about her a lot. She gained the admiration of her country and the world for just doing the right stuff. I mean, in the COVID crisis, unlike many countries that tried to twist and use the virus for political gain or whatever, she just did the correct thing. She just did the right thing. She listened to the experts. Right. And her country did better than any other Western country for New Zealand.
Yes. Dining.
And, it's just, she's a woman, which, a lot of people don't believe women can be leaders. Here you go. When that crazy person in New Zealand shot up the mosque there, killed all those people, she turned around and did the correct thing. She didn't use it for political gain. She condemned it. And then 6 days later, I think they passed gun legislation to stop people from ever getting hold of those type of military style weapons again in New Zealand.
Awesome.
Whereas, like I said, in the United States, how many years has it been? And we still can't get rid of those military style weapons. Still, 18-year-olds can buy them. But among other things, when it came to pollution, we talked about this, I think 2 months ago, she created a tax for pollution, for people who create pollution. Yeah. She introduced the school lunch program, increased welfare benefits to poor people, free doctor's visits, free menstrual products for schools, a housing program, increase to the minimum wage. She prioritized health care, education for the poor people, increased teachers' pay. She opposed criminalizing people who use cannabis. She, said New Zealand would be carbon neutral by 2025. She made it so the public can only buy electric or hybrid cars now. She was the first New Zealand, leader to address NATO. But in my opinion, she's one of the best leaders that we have in the world right now. But with all the positives and the overwhelming popularity that she has in her country, good politicians, they never get elected and they never last because there's always the bad. and there's a lot of bad people there criticizing her constantly. So she's decided, I don't need this anymore. And she's calling it quits.
The typical burnout, but I think at the same time, she's confident of all the good work that she's done, that anyone who will take over will just continue whatever seeds she planted.
Yeah, we can all hope. We hope that is the case. She said that she wanted to spend more time with her daughter and her partner. And she, did something that I do not think I have ever seen another world leader do. She said, I know what this job takes, and I know I no longer have enough in the tank to do it justice. So she didn't get voted out. She didn't get removed from the office by impeachment. She did what she thinks is good for the country because she just doesn't think she has it in her anymore. And let me ask you this question. When's the last time you ever heard a leader say something like that?
Well, not here. I don't remember.
I don't remember any in the U.S. or the Philippines. I can't think of any. She's doing what's right, what she thinks is right for the country. So, that is just...
It's very honorable.
Yeah. I mean, my hat's off to her. I think that she was one of the greatest leaders that, since I've been covering leaders for the last, 10 years that I've been doing the show, I think that she's one of the best ones. Now, we are getting low on time here. I wanted to talk about one other thing because I want to get around the world, and I wanted to get to this guy. I wanted to hear what your opinion was on this because, we've been talking about Iran a lot lately and the protests going on in Iran. The woman that was killed because her hair popped out of the hijab. So the police pulled her out of the car and beat her and she died. And I wanted to talk about this because I want to get your take on some of the laws there right now, because this week, that Iranian man that I have spoken about, he got 8 years in jail for cutting off his wife's head. We have talked about this gruesome story, and it's about this young, we talked about it 2 times before, this young 12-year-old girl who was forced by her father to marry a man much older than her, and he got her pregnant, and she had a child when she was just 14 years old. And he abused her, and he beat her, and he threatened her with death all the time. And finally, she escaped him, and she went to Turkey at age 17. So with the help of some of their friends, and how they got her out of the country, how they got her to the house. It was really an incredible story. Anyway, her family wanted her to return. And she said, I will return. However, I want some assurances that I'm going to be safe from this crazy guy that you made me marry. And so they said, okay, whatever. So anyway, when she returned, I think it was the second day that she returned, with her husband, with the help of her brother-in-law, they snatched her and they removed her head from her body. And the husband walked through the streets holding her head to show it to everybody. Now, this is not exactly illegal in Iran. Which has been the topic of a lot of discussions, because right now Iran's having some problems now with protesting these kind of things. And actually, to tell you the truth, it's up to the family. If her father had have given him permission to kill her, he would have gotten off scot-free. But because he killed her without the permission of her father, now, okay, so you usually get killed, you usually get your head chopped off for murder there. However, you can get off if her family forgives you. So her father, the father of the girl, forgave the man and pardoned him for killing her. So, but because the father did not give consent before the murder, and there was some abuse, that he got 7.5 years. He got 8 years in jail, 7.5 months for the murder without consent, which is what it's called, murder without consent, and 8 months for the assault. And the brother-in-law, got some jail time for helping him cut off her head. So, anyway, this is the story that has, a lot of people have been talking about this week.
So that's Iran?
That's in Iran. The same place where I think it was 2020 where I talked about the father who cut off his 14-year-old daughter's head after she ran off with her boyfriend. And he even, before he killed her, he consulted with his lawyer. He said, okay, now I'm going to kill my daughter. Okay, so what does the law say exactly? I can kill her, right? Because she shamed me and she ran off with this boy without my permission. And turns out he did get 9 years for the murder, but still, this is the law there in Iran.
This is so crazy and very, very tragic. I wouldn't want to be a woman in that country. Nobody deserves, no woman or no human deserves any of it. And I just wish that things will change around there.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't, it's hard to believe that this is going on in 2023, but it is. And they say that they are going to change the laws there in Iran. I personally don't believe it. I don't think anything's going to change
right
while those people are still in power. But, right now this still goes on, and that these kinds of killings can happen just as long as your parents say it's okay. And the reason, this one got in the news, but there are so many of them there that do not get in the news. So we hope. But anyway, I just wanted to tell that story because it's a follow-up from a story that we had been working on before. And the fact that he got 8 years just doesn't seem like long enough.
Shows or press or any form of media should keep on talking about these things as they are happening, just to create enough noise and to get help.
Enough protesting. Now they already beheaded 4 protesters already, and I think 10 are already there's 10 more still on death row from protesting there because it's illegal to protest in Iran, but they're protesting anyway. But I don't want to continue with our death stories, but David Crosby died this week.
Yeah.
David Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Also with the Birds before.
Yeah, he was with the Birds. Later became Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, but he died at 81. Honestly, I cannot believe that David Crosby lasted to 81 with all the drugs that he did. But I just wanted to mention that really quick because he's one of my favorite singers. He was just such a great singer. I know he had a lot of problems in life. He was at Woodstock. I mean, those guys, once they played at Woodstock, he's just, they blew up, their band blew up. He did a whole bunch of, was in a lot of other bands, a lot of recordings. Of course, he had problems with drugs and weapons possession. He did some time in jail. He actually said that the time in jail was the best thing because it got him out of drugs. But,
that's cool. Was he the lead vocalist for Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young?
They were amazing at doing these harmonies. That was their thing. I don't think there was a lead. They all were lead vocalists. They were just incredibly amazing. The things that they could do with the kind of recording equipment that they had in the 70s and 80s, it was just astounding. The incredible harmonies and guitar parts that they did. They were just amazing. And the fact that he still did it. I mean, he had a liver transplant. He had multiple open heart surgeries, and he still played music. And that story that the story with Melissa Etheridge. I don't know, Melissa Etheridge. She was a lesbian. She was in a lesbian relationship, and she had 2 children. And supposedly, Dave Crosby was the sperm donor for her children, but nobody really knew for sure. Well, now we know for sure.
Oh, really?
It was
That's
him.
True.
It was him. Yes, it was him. He was the sperm donor.
We have a song called, my favorite one is Just a Song Before I Go.
Yes. That's a great song. I mean, they had so many wonderful songs. So anyway, David Crosby dead at 81. And I actually, honestly, I can't believe he made it to 81. He was making music all the way up until the day he died. But speaking of things that we should eat or not eat to try and keep ourselves from dying, Beyond Meat. This is something that I've been meaning to talk about for a while, and now it's in the news. What a great idea to make a burger that tastes so good, but it's made with plants. Looks like a burger, tastes like a burger, but it's not a burger. But let me ask your opinion here, because these are things that people think are good ideas. They look like good ideas until they're not good ideas. And right now, plant-based burgers are not catching on the way they thought that they would. Burger King had the Beyond Meat burger, but turned out it was just something in a bun that people didn't go for.
The thing is, like for me, I did the plant-based. I decided that, okay, I want to be plant-based for a few months. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to eat vegetables that still look like vegetables. You know, carrots, you know, all of those vegetables. But once I started buying the unmeat meat, it made me realize that these are processed food filled with flour, you know, not, you know, chemicals, preservatives. So I started going back to the original, just buying veggies, chopping them out, and then eating it, you know?
So you're not a big fan of the Beyond Meat either?
No, although I like the Burger King plant-based burger. Because they're like grilled and it tastes good.
Because, I mean, I actually have had one of those. I'm part of that 1% because they say in the United States in 2019, plant-based burgers barely made up even 1% of burger sales. And they thought, what they had thought was that when people saw that it was healthier to eat the plant-based burgers, that they would just go off the shelf like hotcakes. But then they didn't, because people are like cave people. They need to eat meat. When they have a choice between meat and plants, they eat the meat.
So, but I think in the Philippines, Burger King is doing well with their plant-based.
You think people are eating it?
Plant-based are more expensive than the regular beef burger.
I mean, there was a story that came out, and we talked about it here on the show, that they have a lot, in those plant-based burgers, they have a lot of additives and salt in it. And some studies came out that they're not as healthy as we all made them out to be. So
it's highly processed is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of processed stuff. But the big news this week is that they're starting to take a look at possibly dropping a lot of plant-based burgers from menus because they're just not selling, because nobody's eating the plant. If they just take away the word plant and call it the other burger, something. So it's costing them too much money to keep that on the menus. But speaking of,
it's all processed. So I just concluded that I'm not gonna. I just started discarding. Actually, I didn't eat anymore all of my unmeat because I have them in the freezer.
Okay.
I discarded.
Because you are one of these. I don't have a lot of healthy people to talk to here on the show, so you're one of those people that I want to. But speaking of being healthy, I know that you like to run a lot, and Usain Bolt is back in the news. For all of you who might not know who Usain Bolt is, I can't believe there'd be anybody out there, but he is the fastest man in the world. He can run 100 meters in 9.58 seconds. Probably the most decorated sprinter in the world, and he is having problems with his money.
It's lifetime savings.
He's had some big problems with money. What was it? A couple weeks ago, we did The Art of the Scam. That there's so many scams going on in the world right now, and somehow Usain Bolt has found him in the middle of one of these scams. He gave $12 million plus to a private equity firm called Jamaican firm. Let's see. When he checked, it's called Stocks and Securities Limited, SSL. When he checked his account looking for the $12 million, he found $12,000, and he's like, "What?
3 zeros.
Where's my 12?" I mean, imagine what your body would feel like the minute you looked at your account and did not see $12 million, but $12,000. I don't know that. I think I might have a heart attack. I don't know if I would go out. Maybe he went out and took a run.
I know, right? That's his pension. And I want to know, this is SSL. How are they responsible for this? I mean, did he invest on something and then it crashed?
Well, that is Yeah.
to safeguard money?
Yeah, this is the usual excuse when you use these security companies. They go, well, you invest at your own risk. But the problem is that when you have $12 million and you're Usain Bolt, and all of a sudden you're losing millions. I mean, it's one thing to lose, 5%, 10%. I mean, in the United States right now, a lot of people lost 20% last year, but to lose 100% or 99.9%, and then nobody know. And so they have not been able to give an answer as to where that money is. As of right now, Usain Bolt's not the only one. There's other investors that are like, hey, where's our money? It's just Usain Bolt is the most famous guy. But right now there is, a problem with that. I mean, we've been talking a lot about these scams that are going on, and some of them are huge. People losing billions of dollars. Companies, these, this week, in the crypto business, Genesis, one of the largest crypto lenders in the world, just filed for bankruptcy this week. And, we had the problem with Sam Bankman-Fried. The last couple of weeks, we've been talking about him and the billions of dollars that he lost. And they're reporting Genesis, which, I've talked about before here on the show, they are reporting liabilities of somewhere around $10 billion. Wow. That they don't know where it is. And, that company, by the way, that company is owned by the Winklevoss brothers. You know who the Winklevoss brothers are?
Oh, who are they?
They're the guys that gave Mark Zuckerberg the idea for Facebook.
Oh, and then okay. Now I know. Yeah.
They're the guy that rowed. They row. They were in the Olympics or something for rowing. Anyway, they sued Mark Zuckerberg and they won like $60 million. And they put it in this company and they made a whole lot of money. They invested in cryptos at the right time and they made billions of dollars. And now it's gone and customers want their money back. And this is a big problem with a lot of people around the world right now. You have to be, in fact, they say now the best place to put your money is the same place they told you not to put your money, in your bed. Don't stick your money under the bed before. Now it's, stick your money under the bed and hide it. Don't put it in one of these places. And, because things are not going so well right now in the financial world. Speaking of things that are ending, besides all our money, our show is ending.
Yeah.
We're about out of time here, but listen, thank you so much, everybody out there, for joining us here on the World News Jam. Me and Melissa here talking about what I think are the most interesting stories going on in the world. We will be back again next week with more interesting stories, talking about it and discussing it with, hopefully, Melissa. We can drag her back on the show here to give us her insight, because we need a healthy person who can do Ironmans here on the DZRJ network. So for all of us here at the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJ TV, we'll be back again next Sunday. So please join us in. And everybody, please be safe out there. We'll see you next week.
Good night.